Okay, so we took this question from my prep club's GRE forum. It's a great question because it shows how a simple technique can save you loads of time on questions like this. You could spend up to a minute, I would say, on a question like this if you went, in inverted commas, the long way. But if you went the short way, you would be able to answer this in 10 to 15 seconds. If you want to get a top grade on the GRE Quantitative Reasoning section, you have to be able to spot these time-saving techniques, especially when you go up against the hard questions that throw seemingly ugly or time-consuming calculations your way. You want to be able to spot the quickest way to the answer. And more often than not, there are predictable patterns, formulas, strategies, or techniques that you can employ during these questions. So let's take a look at this one. So you have this is a remainder question. And it says that when x over 8, or when x is divided by 8, the remainder is 3. So it's asking you what the remainder is when you have x to the 4 divided by 8. Now, you might look at this and say it's a remainder question, and that might tempt you to immediately work with kind of that dividend divisor quotient plus remainder formula. So you'd set up the formula using that kind of, you may set up the formula saying dividend is the divisor times, you may set up a formula using this rule, right? And you may end up with something like, x to the 4 equals 8k, plus 3 to the 4. I won't even explain how you got this. We can go into that in another session. But you may end up with something like this. Then you're going to have to reason through this, and then you're going to have to, oh man, it might take you quite a long time. A much faster way to do this would be to leverage what's called squaring the remainder. It's a simple technique. You can't use it all the time, but you can use it if two conditions are met. The first condition is that if the numerator is raised to an even exponent, okay, so if this is even, then that's one done. The second criteria is that if the denominator, or the number you're dividing it by, is even as well, then you're onto a winner. So the exponent has to be even, and the divisor, the denominator, the number you're dividing the x to the 4 by, also has to be even. If that's the case, you can use the squaring the remainder. And the rule is pretty simple. The rule says like this: the remainder, okay, the remainder of this sum, or this calculation, the remainder of x to the 4 divided by 8 is the same as the remainder of this number when you square it and divide it by 8. So the remainder of this sum squared divided by 8, or divided by the denominator, will be the same as this remainder, or the remainder that is spat out after this calculation. That's really simple, right? So all you would do is you would say 3 squared equals 9, divided by 8, remainder 1, right? And then here is your answer, answer E.